Hello there and welcome to this Saturday's final edition of YES101's Visual Radio. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Thiruni Rajaratnam. Before we head on to your stories in detail, first, your headlines.
Newsfirst headline.
Attorney General Rajaratnam recommended for 6-month extension. Chandrika faction convenes SLFP meeting tomorrow. ISIS Osman Jarrad to be detained and interrogated. Heavy rains batter Sri Lanka. In news overseas, ANC vote collapses in historic South Africa election result. And in sports, 9th T20 World Cup kicks off tomorrow. On to those stories in detail now. President Ranil Wickremesinghe has proposed a 6-month extension of service for Attorney General Sanjay Rajaratnam, according to Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abeyewardene. The recommendation has been directed to the Constitutional Council for their approval. Speaker Mahinda Yapa Abeyewardene said that the Constitutional Council will convene next Tuesday to discuss the recommendation. Further actions will be determined following the Council's decision. President's Counsel Sanjay Rajaratnam was sworn in as the 48th Attorney General on the 26th of May 2021. The Sri Lanka Freedom Party's Delegate Summit was held today under the chairmanship of former President Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga. It was decided there to convene the Central Committee of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and also summon electorate organisers. Meanwhile, former chairman of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Maithripala Sirisena, said that the Central Committee meeting convened tomorrow by the faction led by Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga is unconstitutional. Maithripala Sirisena added that the crisis with the Sri Lanka Freedom Party can be resolved before the presidential election in October. Meanwhile, SLPP national organizer Namal Rajapaksa said that the SLPP is completely against interfering with the electoral map. He added that the SLPP is against the delaying of elections and that the elections must be held on time. In more news from the political landscape, at a media briefing convened by the Samagi Jana Balavege today, parliamentarian Harshana Rajakaruna emphasized that the SLPP leadership pursues a double standard by supporting the government's action in parliament while publicly opposing them. On to more local news now. Sri Lanka police said that Osman Jarrad, who was arrested, will be detained and interrogated for 72 hours. He was arrested in Colombo in a joint operation by the Terrorism Investigation Division and the Criminal Investigation Department under the suspicion that he handled the group of Sri Lankans said to be linked to the ISIS arrested in India. The 46-year-old suspect is a resident of Dematagoda. Police recently sought help from the general public and announced a reward of 2 million rupees to any individual who provides information about him. On the 20th of May, 4 Sri Lankans were arrested by the Gujarat anti-terrorist squad at the Ahmedabad airport in India, claiming that they are linked to the ISIS organization. On to your weather news now. Agalavatta in Matugama recorded the highest rainfall in Sri Lanka in the past 24 hours, receiving a staggering 264.5 millimeters. The Department of Meteorology has issued a warning notice for possible heavy showers in the southwestern parts of the island. Heavy showers above 100 millimeters are likely at some places in the western and Sabaragamu provinces, along with some areas in the Gaul, Mathura and Nuwara Eliya districts. The Irrigation Department warns that water levels of the Kalu, Ging and Nilvala rivers are rising again due to the significant rainfall in the past 24 hours within the surrounding river basins. Residents living near these rivers are advised to exercise extreme caution. Now, the Met Department advises the naval and fishing communities to avoid sailing in the southeast and southwest Bay of Bengal areas until further notice, due to the possibility of strong winds and heavy rains associated with the active southwest monsoon weather. Meanwhile, landslide warnings are currently in place for several districts including Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Ratnapura, Colombo, Kalutara, Kegal and Kurunagala. Let's now take a look at international news.
International news.
The political party once led by Nelson Mandela was hit by the worst election results since the apartheid ended 30 years ago. With results from 99% of voting districts declared, the ANC has 40%. This is a steep fall since the last election when it got 57%. This means it will have to share power with one or more parties. ANC leaders are preparing for complex coalition talks. The centre-right Democratic Alliance remains the second largest party with 22%. The new MK party, led by ex-President Jacob Zuma, is in third place with 15%. It replaces the radical EFF, whose share of vote falls to 9%. The distribution of seats in the 400-member National Assembly directly reflects the vote share. Coming up next is sports news.
Sports news.
And in sports news, it is cricket. The highly anticipated 9th edition of the T20 World Cup Cricket Tournament ignites tomorrow, co-hosted by the West Indies and the United States of America. Cricket fans around the world unite as the 9th edition of the T20 World Cup kicks off tomorrow. This year's tournament marks a historic moment, with the West Indies and the United States co-hosting the event. This is a first for the United States, a nation relatively new to the sport, but one that receives the World Cup mandate due to its co-hosting role. 20 teams will vie for the coveted title, participating in preliminary rounds divided into 4 groups, A to D. Cricket powerhouses such as current champion England, Australia, India, New Zealand, Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and Afghanistan will be present. This year also welcomes debutants, the United States, Canada and Uganda, injecting fresh energy and diverse strategies into the competition. Sri Lanka, led by Vanindu Hasaranga, will battle it out in Group D. The tournament kicks off with a fiery clash between the United States of America and Canada tomorrow at 6 a.m. local time, taking place at the Grand Prairie Stadium in Dallas, Texas. ICC cricket rights in Sri Lanka up until the end of 2025 have been awarded to MTV Channel Private Limited. MTV will exploit the broadcast rights via TV1, Shakti TV and Siddhasar TV. These channels, catering to all 3 main languages in Sri Lanka, will bring you live matches with expert commentary powered by cutting-edge technology at the state-of-the-art Stein Studios. Siddhasar TV aired a special program this morning featuring veteran cricketers and commentators, setting the stage for an unforgettable tournament. And that's a wrap of today's final edition of YES101's Visual Radio. For details of all these stories and much more, do visit our website www.Newsfirst.lk or follow us on our social media platforms. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Rajaratnam. Thank you for watching. Good night.